Well, joining us live from the US now is Republican strategist Amanda Makki, who, as it happens, has family in Iran. Amanda, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you so much for your time. So with family there, how conflicted do you feel about things today?
Well, certainly no Iranian wants to see their fellow countrymates, their relatives, their friends, their family, their loved ones be affected by this. But if I could tell you how many times I've heard over the course of all my life, how desperately Iranians would love to see a regime change, to go back to how their homeland was, or to even leave their country if they could. They would be willing to do it in a heartbeat. This is a country that affords no opportunities to women, views women as half of a man. There are a lot of differences that people in Iran have with the way that they could live freely in another country outside of Iran, and so they desperately want to see regime change. It is unfortunate. The reality of this has to be that there has to be, an escalation of things, as has been in the last 10 days.
So J.D. Vance had said that this isn't about that. Do you think it should be, that it should be about regime change?
I think as an Iranian, we just wish that it would be. I know that there are many Americans and even Iranians that say, Obama had the chance during the Green Uprising, the Green Revolution in 2010 to do it and to make to change Iran and get rid of this regime. I think Iranians desperately want to see that. Everything that I have heard from my sources is that there isn't an appetite for this among President Trump and his leadership. They don't want regime change. A lot of them, even if you look at Congressman Matt Gaetz, someone who has always been very closely aligned with President Trump. Of course, he's no longer in Congress anymore. He's saying, look, this didn't work out the last time we tried this, 25 years ago. Let's not make the same mistakes we made as we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think that there is somewhat of a limited appetite for this among the members of Congress. What they do, however, want to see is Republicans certainly want to see a de-escalation of the nuclear situation in Iran. That's something that they want to see. But what is interesting about this is that if you have seen any polling on this, there is a new poll by the Ronald Reagan Institute that shows about 2/3 of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, want to see more foreign engagement by our leadership, by the U.S. leadership. So it's an interesting dichotomy right now to see where the political leadership is, where the American people are.
Okay, let's talk about the Republican split that seems to be in play, at least parts of it anyway, because Steve Bannon, he's pointed out, and we played a part of this a little earlier, he pointed out in his podcast, with retaliatory strikes likely, are we inching towards, or is the US inching towards a forever war now?
So I think that what President Trump is hoping for, maybe the aim or the goal here is to, and Keir Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer said this, is to kind of de-escalate the situation. Of course, everyone would view this as an escalation, but if you can get this to where you can get the Iranians to come to the table and to start to negotiate, that's what the United States wants. And I think that's what they're pursuing. Now, that may not be what Israel wants, but I think the United States and its leadership with President Trump does not want to see that. But they do want to take nuclear capabilities out of the hands of the Iranians. It's a very tender situation. There's no right answer, and there's really no clear path. But everything that President Trump and his leaders, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, J.D. Vance, his vice president, have said are that they want to see a negotiation happen, not regime change, at least not on behalf of the United States engaging to effectuate that.
I mean, look, there's going to be a response in some form or another. The Iranians talk about pride, and they don't want to be shown up too much, I think, at least by the Americans after these strikes. So there's going to be a response in some capacity. Already they're talking about closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which would cause a huge shock to oil prices. But are you expecting anything beyond that from the Iranian point of view, given what you know and your history with Iran?
Well, they've been talking about closing the Strait of Hormuz many, many times, and they never have. So I believe that this is kind of resetting the playing field to say, let's have a debate, let's discuss this. If they don't, and they don't come to the table and there are no discussions, I think the first line of attack, if you will, would be the Strait of Hormuz and closure of that. And of course, if you've seen today, the United States is asking, other countries to engage on its behalf, like China, to not have them close the Strait of Hormuz. Because of course, as the announcer said on your show, 25% of the world's energy supply comes from the Strait of Hormuz. So this could actually be very, very devastating. We've never seen the Iranians do it. I don't know that they will do it. My hope, of course, is that they will come to the negotiation table, but they're certainly throwing it out. But they've done this many times before.
All right, Amanda, good to talk to you this morning again. We'll chat to you again soon. Appreciate it.